Maple Leaf, we're back for another bonus episode of Let's Play Night in the Woods, and today we're going to be doing some salvaging.
What are we salvaging?
We are salvaging old discarded shit.
Old discarded shit?
Yep. This is an entirely new addition to the Weird Autumn edition. This Mr. Salvi and his salvage business. You can go on a salvage trip with him and pick up shit to put in your room. Because, you know, like when society has collapsed, you grab the shit that you need.
Is that what we're doing? Are we grabbing shit that we need?
We don't need it. The joke is that we're grabbing shit that we don't need because we got nothing better to do with our time. A side hustle. Do you have any side hustles?
Can't say I do.
You don't consider your writing side hustling?
Consider that my main hustling.
Your main hustling? So this guy, just like everyone else in Possum Springs, has, I guess, more than one job, because you can't live on one job anymore. And I like his little thing about saying, like, yeah, I'm not just a junk man, I'm a purveyor of fine goods. He reminds me a lot of RE4's Merchant.
Well, you can have any occupation in the world and have it sound good.
You just have to market it right? It's like, you can say that you're a treasure hunter when you're really just rooting for stuff in the landfill.
You could say that you're a garbage man, but no. You could be a garbage man, but say that you're something like,
A cleaning hygiene specialist?
It's a government-issued hygienist, yeah.
You know, it's not wrong. Also, we were talking about Stranger Danger last time. May's basically doing Stranger Danger right now. She's like, if I disappear, this is what I was doing. Which is surprisingly aware of her, I think.
Look at the size of the spectacles on that owl. You could trust a guy with spectacles that big.
Oh yeah, really. I mean, you can't see anything. If you're attacked by a dude with giant glasses, just knock him off his face. He won't be able to do anything about it. Also, this dude is a total side hustler because he's saying, yeah, let's go ahead and, you know, I'm going to pick up this discarded stuff that nobody needs and I'm going to sell it at a high markup to tourists.
It's not garbage.
What is it then? It's fine goods of the past? He's an antiquarian?
It's another man's treasure.
That's true. So the gimmick of this, I guess, side activity, there's two parts of it. The first one is, yeah, he's right. There it is. You're calling it your garbage is my treasure, pretty much. The idea is that you just pick up something that you consider, I guess, worth something, and then just bring it back to him and says, yeah, I got this, and you keep it. I don't think I'd ever do anything like this, though. Not personally.
Go to a man-made island full of junk?
Yeah, and pick up some shit and be like, yeah, I'm keeping this. I mean, I can see people who like work in like repairs and stuff, like especially car mechanics who just strip cars for parts and then say, this is still useful, you know? But random junk? No.
I do that with computers sometimes.
What, you actually go in to your friends' computers and say, I'll take that?
No, but if my parents need help with a computer and I take it apart or something, and I look through the insides and I see that, I don't know, the RAM is still good, then maybe I consider taking it and maybe throwing it in my machine.
Is it that, like, slap and go for you?
No, it's not often. I just like to think about it sometimes. I just like to look through the computer. Like, a lot of stuff in my folks' computers are significantly weaker than what's in my computer, so I don't often do it, but I still like to just think about it.
To think of saying, like, I'm going to strap on all this good stuff and make my computer a Frankenstein of performance.
Well, I mean, everyone's computers... Well, if you build your own computer, it's probably a Frankenstein.
That's true. So he picked up an axe because I figure an axe is a bit more valuable and or useful than, what, a tennis racket? Or a snowshoe? What would a snowshoe be doing in frickin' Pennsylvania?
Man, don't ask questions. I mean, actually, that's probably why it's in the dump.
Somebody bought it and, like, I just made a bad purchase. Into the garbage you go! What was the worst purchase you've ever made that you threw out pretty much immediately or a few days after getting it?
Speaking of computers, that would probably be it. I bought a $400 desktop computer that overheated irreparably within a couple days.
Oy. And you just got rid of it?
Had to, yeah. Wasn't anything in there worth keeping. So when I got rid of that, I went back to my older computer, which by then was already 8 years old. The hard drive had 30 gigs of space. It had something like 500 megabytes of RAM. It didn't have a video card, etc., etc. It was an old family computer that we got way back in the late 90s.
Like a Dell or something?
Yeah, actually, it was a Dell.
Not the singer.
And I rocked that for maybe another couple months before I saved up and bought a much larger computer. And I rocked that desktop computer for another couple years before I started getting up the money to put more custom stuff in there, like my own video card, or my own CPU, etc., etc. The only thing that's still store-bought in this computer right now is the hard drive.
Yeah, I imagine hard drives are probably the thing that is the least likely to fail from a store-bought computer.
Well, it's not that everything else failed, it's that they all got obsoleted.
For sure. So here's a second gimmick of this activity. Mr. Salvi really does not like bats. He's basically Bruce Wayne when he was a kid. And we have to shine the headlamps on the bats to make them scatter, because if we don't, he gets pissed at us and he won't take us to the garbage islands. So, you know, if you were like, God, I really don't want to fish for garbage, you just don't do this. And then he goes like, why did you not scare the bats away? But
why is this your job and not his?
Because he's guiding the boat. And he says, I need a second pair of hands to handle the lamp. Yeah.
How does he work otherwise? Yeah.
Well, he doesn't go to the islands of garbage as far in when the bats are around.
No, this is bullshit.
What, you think he's just lonely and he just wants some company in the boat?
He normally works alone. And he can if he works alone, then that must mean that he's capable of working both the light and the boat.
Well, not as he just said that he doesn't go to deep islands when he has no lamp or nobody to handle his lamp. I know you're not paying attention, but talking about your computer and all that shit. But he did answer it. So, second garbage island.
Where even are we? Are we underground?
No, we're in the flooded tunnel.
Which is underground?
Yes, it is a tunnel. It's the mine carts used to run when the mines were still active in this town. And they had trolleys to take the miners from and to the mine to the town. And I guess there was a huge flood in the 90s and it just destroyed all of this. And now it's just basically an underground sewer that is just collecting filth and rat droppings and bats. And is probably going to be in 200 years like a very weird archaeologist's dream to investigate and see how people in the 2000s lived. You know, think about it. Think about all the things that are from the 1800s and whatever, or like from ancient history that have been like collapsed under walls, and archaeologists dig it up and be like, I wonder how people lived in the past like this. And imagine that with our stuff.
You know, that's a good point. I never really considered that. You hear stories of like a kid going down to a stream and digging through a bunch of rocks, and then he finds a rusty arrowhead.
Or an old sword. That little girl who found an old sword from the Roman times.
Something like that.
Yeah.
You never consider what it's going to be like in 100 years when they find, like, an old Nokia that still works.
Well, I think 100 years in the past is still recent enough that people, unless society completely collapses and we forget everything that we've done, I think 100 years is still close enough. But give it even 300 years. I think at that point we'll be like, was that used for this or not? I mean, when you really think about it, the United States itself is only what, like 350 years old? Canada is only 150, although it's older than that because it was quote-unquote discovered in the 1600s. But even then, like, we're looking at like native stuff and being like, what was this for? I picked up a mushy coconut, and I was like, you know what, bad idea. Let's swap it for the Dracula teeth. Dracula teeth are probably more awesome than moldy coconuts.
You know, May just asked the question, why do vampires go bleh?
Wasn't that from Bram Stoker's Dracula?
There's a reason why Bram Stoker sounded the way he did.
And why is that?
It's because Bram Stoker didn't speak English. I forget what language he was. What language he did speak. Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
What his natural language was?
Yeah.
Was he Italian?
That doesn't quite sound right. Anyway, let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just say it was Italian.
Okay.
Bram Stoker, when he got the part of Dracula, he refused to learn English in order to speak his lines, so he learned all of his lines phonetically.
Huh. So, I want to drink your blood.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's how he spoke like that?
Yep, that's why he sounded the way he did.
That's
it wasn't
awesome.
Intentional. That wasn't how Dracula was written. Dracula was written to be a very eloquent English speaker. Like, he was supposed to be very enunciated. He was supposed to be very clear.
He was supposed to be the epitome of upper English crust. Mm-hmm. And being like, oh, dear chap, I swear, I just want to drink your blood. Except he's like...
Maybe not quite like that, but...
No, but think about it. Monsters in fiction have always stood in for something else. Vampires were supposed to represent the rich taking the life force of the poor.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that if they wanted to make Dracula be a very learned, enunciated vampire, he'd probably have an upper-class accent. But obviously, the Transylvanian, or Bram Stoker from who knows whereville, he decided to be like, screw learning English, I'm going to just accentuate and phonetically say my lines, which is still pretty funny, and just go from there. And what was this blah supposed to be? Was that him just going like bah or blood?
I'm pretty sure it was just how his representation evolved over time. So, like, the phrase "beam me up, Scotty."
Right.
That phrase was never actually said in Star Trek.
Of course.
So I'm assuming the bleh sound, or even "I want to suck your blood." I'm pretty sure Bram Stoker never actually said that, and that's
right.
That's purely a fan-made invention.
It's possible. It's a bit like saying, like, what was it? Like, you don't say "elementary, my dear Watson." It was something else from Sherlock Holmes. Like, just "it's elementary" or something of the sort. But like you said, fans misremember and or adapt it to be like, but this is how it's always been said because that's what my mind tells me. Damn it. It's a bit like that whole Mandela effect thing where you're like, but I remember it like this. It was never like that because people forget.
I was going to say a really famous one is Darth Vader.
What about it?
He never said, "Luke, I am your father."
He just said, "I am your father," right?
Yep.
And he's like, "No, I am your father." But we have to say, "Luke, I am your father," because it's like, we're talking Star Wars, man. So since we're getting deeper and deeper, like because we're doing a good job scaring the bats away, we're finding more and more of Possum Springs history, which again, archaeology. You get through the blood-sucking bats and the monsters in the mines, and you're like, ooh, I can find better goods over here to sell in the market.
how friggin' long is this tunnel? Where exactly are we? We can't still be under Possum Springs by this point.
I don't think we are. I think we're actually midway from the mines to Possum Springs at this point. We've been navigating for quite a while, game time and video time. And I mean, we've been cutting from every garbage island to the boat. Mr. Salvi has told a whole story by that point. So we're going far. God knows how far we're going. Either we're going under Possum Springs is larger than we think, and we're just going to the outskirts, like the suburbs, or we're straight up under nature now, into the mine, or towards the mine. Do I want this thing? We always want things. May doesn't, though.
Except if they're gross and care about sports.
Yep. Well, unfortunately, there's only 2 sports things here. A football helmet or a thing. Which you'll see what it is soon enough. It's
You
functional.
could totally wear that football helmet.
In case I slip on the ice.
I played football.
I could wear this if I was in a fight. Although, stopping a bullet, not quite yet.
I don't know if it'll stop the bullet. Any protection is better than none.
Well, they say that helmets, especially bike helmets, have one good drop in them.
Yep.
And that's it. Like my motorcycle helmet, thankfully I've never fell off my motorcycle riding it. But it did feel like, man, nothing could ruin this thing. And then I see pictures or videos of people who've gotten motorcycle accidents and their helmets have saved their heads, but they've been completely shredded. And I'm like, yep, not wearing that again. It's an ancient flag thing.
Now you're just going back and forth between the helmet and the flag.
Yep, but I'm taking the flag. I'm taking the ancient flag thing. Because a helmet, everyone's got a frickin' helmet. Why would I want a helmet? It's a hockey pennant. And May loves hockey. '70s and '80s. That's kind of old, isn't it?
It's fairly old. I mean, it's 40 at this point.
Right now, in the library next door to me, I live next door to the Grande Bibliothèque, the Quebec National Archives. They have an exhibition right now of, what's in French? It's like dans les glacés or on les glacés or something like that, talking about the history of Quebec in Canada. And specifically it's the history of hockey in Quebec, not in Canada, I'm sorry. And it talks about especially the academic part of it, like all the kids growing up who were learning hockey and playing hockey as they were growing up from all the way to the beginning of the 20th century until now. And it's actually pretty impressive how the photos aged, because I've seen some pictures of the people who were in the 1910s and shit, and during the wars, and it's like, some of these people actually look like people I know right now. It was actually kind of creepy.
And now you just have to deal with the final bat.
The final bat.
The Batman.
Yeah. It's like, who are you working for? The big one. So, we are going to the final island. And apparently floods is serious business. I've never been in a flood. I've seen pictures of tsunamis or of films, clips of tsunamis and shit like that. And I would never want to be caught in one. But, I mean, after the fact, it's like, but everything looks so peaceful, right? That's because nature has kind of blocked away all the horrors that it's caused. 20-year-old. She's not a kid, she's a 20-year-old. Does Halifax have any problems with its own rivers or waterfront?
Nope.
Nope, it's pretty reliable.
Not yet.
Not yet. Have there been some government officials going, climate change is going to fuck it up?
We have more climate change deniers than we have people trying to do anything about it.
Ugh, and in the coast, no less.
A friend of mine wanted to ask them a different question. It wasn't, do you believe in climate change? Because they're going to say no, obviously.
It's the keywords, the buzzwords.
Yeah, it's what are you going to do to protect the city from the rising floodwaters?
Because they accept the water level is rising, right?
I don't remember the exact wording of the question.
But it's neutral enough.
It was something to that effect, yeah. It was neutral enough that it didn't ask the question about climate change. It was more to the question of if climate change were real.
Yeah, what would you be doing to save the city? Or protect your environment or whatever? Were there any good answers?
Well, that was what he wanted to ask. They never did. He never did get the opportunity to ask and official that.
Huh. Also, a little bit of hubris for humanity or the city. They said, yeah, this is where the flood hit hardest. And they thought the trolleys would be like, no big deal. But nope. The flood just carried the trolleys into the garbage and ruined everything. So there it goes to show you can't really trust, like you were saying about Halifax and, saying, oh, the dams will hold. Oh, the piers are going to hold. It's like, are you sure about that? Just because we built it doesn't mean that it's going to stay. Especially if you built it with a contractor who's trying to save money. So 2 more things to pick up here. At least one thing.
There's a trumpet.
It's a tuba.
An entire trumpet.
Don't you call it a tuba? Or is that the Canadian way to say tuba?
No, it's a tuba. We call them tubas. I don't know.
It's a trumpet.
Yeah, I'm trying to be an asshole.
Just trying to be difficult like you always are.
Don't you fucking give me your sass.
Don't give me your sass, Olive Branch. Also, I really feel that when Haloa and Bethany and Benson made this area for Weird Autumn, the items that May is picking up are all related to what was the name of that side game? Not the Ghost Star game. You know the one I'm talking about? The one that we played a ways back about the astronomer trying to talk to the god of the forest and the witch.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And we built those snowmen using different items. And all the items were possessing a soul of a person who died there.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a lock. And the other thing is a tuba. And I'm like, those were 2 items that were in that other game. And this is the only part in the entire, I guess, salvage section that May is actually talking about emotions and saying that, these things are important. And I'm like, is this the creators being heavy-handed, or is this just because I'm just looking too much into it?
Is it possible that they're just reusing assets?
Well, it's one thing to reuse assets. It's another one to write a whole bit around it. Don't you think?
No.
Well, you don't think so?
Well.
It's one thing to just slap on the graphic and say, I'm picking up a tuba. It's another one to start talking about the emotional attachment that people make with these objects. She might as well have talked about a key or a picture frame. But why specifically a tuba and a lock? Or a horn? Or a trumpet? Whatever you want to call it.
That note that she played didn't really sound like a tuba.
Make some noise. Yeah, I went for the tuba because I'm like, a lock, May's not that sentimental enough. And a tuba, she's got a bass. Hell, she could be like the next Trent Reznor or Weird Al Yankovic and have a ton of stuff in her room and be like, I know how to play 10 instruments. Or Prince or something like that. And this is our final stop, in case you're wondering.
Why is May in charge of the motor?
She's not. She's in charge of the lamp. I don't know why she's sitting near the motor, but don't ask me. A big-ass mural. The other mural. Because we have the one mural that we know Lori M tagged with the Nuke Possum Springs in the other tunnel. This is the mural that's pristine. Because it's been forgotten after the flood.
The water damage on that thing must be devastating.
There were news recently about how Pompeii found 2 frescoes that have been preserved, and they're restoring them now. One about Narcissus and one about Leda and the Swan. And just like they're saying here, it's not been forgotten. It's just been found. And I think, maybe these old murals that, obviously these murals that May is talking about, and Benson has already been on record saying that they're inspired by the Work Progress Administration or Work Progress Association's like job recovery plans in the 30s and all that stuff. I think that those are eventually going to be a worthy of note too, right?
Sure.
I imagine Canada has its own murals and such that they're going to be like, is this going to be important in a long time? And maybe they will. If they survive. And for someone who is actually really disconnected to schooling, May really, really, really has an attachment to history. Like, she really cares about the past, which is surprising, because, you really don't think that someone like her would.
Well, you'll want to avoid what happened in the past to happen a second time.
Yeah, I mean, considering that she herself has been growing up in a town that's dying, she just wants to keep things alive and surviving as much as they can, because she attaches so much of her identity to the town, that if the town dies, she could die too. She's a forgotten legacy of this town.
Better go sacrifice some kids she doesn't care about.
That's exactly what she doesn't want to do. Makes me think if Salvi is one of the guys now. One of the cultists.
But that's a question that we will never answer, I don't think.
Nope. And as you can see, in the Weird Autumn edition, we can add the shit we picked up to the room. So that's pretty neat.